Hey guys, Philosopher here, and today we're talking about how useful each of the legendaries is in this game. And so, if you're new to the game, you probably have watched a lot of videos from content creators where they talk to you about farming for legendaries. And I will tell you, those are really bad. That's really bad advice. So do not focus, if you're a new player, on farming for legendaries, because most of the legendaries in this game are not very good. They just aren't very important. So I'm just going to break it to you guys. If you're new to this game, most of these characters are not super central or important to the game. There are some, though, that are useful. So what we're going to do is walk through today what use I get at the very, very end game out of these characters. And just to be clear, this is for me. I have every character that matters in this game geared up. In other words, I certainly have a lot of stuff in my account that isn't geared up, but it's by choice. I just don't think they're worth the gear. My 7-star red star aim researcher or 6 red star aim infector or whatever, they're all just sitting here. But I have everything that I could want in the game upgraded, okay? And I'm in a Diamond Alliance, all that jazz. I'm far along in the game. I'm in Alliance that's 100% Doom difficulty 1 raids, all of that. So what do I use these characters for? So let's just go through them. If you have everything, what's the use of these characters? Well, Adam Warlock is the most important legendary in the game right now. Why? Well, a couple of reasons. One is he's on the best team in the game. Infinity Watch is the best team in the game. And the developers have been in like super power creep mode this year ever since about March or April. Once they introduced Silver Surfer, they just had an insane amount of power creep, and just the stats and everything have just blown away everything that came before it. So Infinity Watch is the most powerful team in the game right now by a very, very large margin, a significant margin in my opinion. And Adam Warlock is the first legendary to be introduced since the power creep entered. So his stats are super power crept, 700k health, and that's just at 5 red stars, 31k damage, 28k armor, just to give you a perspective, right? If you look at some other legendaries, okay, if you look at, let's say, even Jubilee, who is the prior legendary, a lot less health, damage, armor. You look at the one that came before that, Doc Ock. He had at the time people thought insane stats, still, significantly lower, right? You look at Black Bolt, super stats at the time, significantly lower. So, Adam Warlock is definitely got amazing stats. He's got a very strong kit, and most importantly, though, he's on the best team in the game. So he to me is a character that's worth maxing out, no matter who you are at this point. He's on my top 10 to invest in list. The only other character that really sniffs the list is Doc Ock. Doc Ock I have as an honorable mention on my top 10 to invest in list, which is a list of investing for the future. And here's what I would say about Doc Ock. I mean, Doc Ock is a character that I use in the Doom raid. I should say, by the way, before I move on, Adam Warlock I do use in the Doom raid, but not on every node, because he has longish cooldowns. I want to have his cooldowns up for the node that gives me more trouble. So he's a good character, but he's not like central to anything in the Doom raid, but he's very, very important just because of the team he's on. I use him in my arena team. I use him in war on my Infinity Watch team and so forth. So Doc Ock in raids is on my tech team, and he's always on my tech team. He's a core member of the team. He's not nearly as important as Kestrel or Doom, but he's more than just there. Like the 4th and 5th characters are more or less just there. You can really mix or match the 4th or 5th characters, in my opinion, whether you want Shuri or Minerva or Ghost or Misty Knight or whatever. Whereas Doc Ock, you kind of really want Doc Ock on your team. He means you don't get offense down, and he generates the summon, which because it's got low health compared to your characters, tends to get a lot of attention from the AI. And he does the flip and all that. So very good character. And he's got a good standalone character. He's always been a great character, just standalone. But, look, in Alliance War, he's still very strong in Alliance War as a standalone character, but his team has really fallen off. I understand at your level, of war, whatever that may be. You may still find Doc Ock and his team super important. At the level that I'm on, he's just not. So I find him to be a character I will throw into certain teams in Alliance War to get a certain impact. I'll kind of use him as plug and play. I'll throw away the other Sinister Six and put him in my bench and throw him onto certain teams to make them a little bit better. Sometimes I do use Sinister Six in Alliance War, but pretty rarely. But they're a good team. They're still a decent team, but he's not nearly as important as we thought he was going to be. Sinister Six as a team has never been really as important as I thought it was going to be. The first legendary I ever unlocked at 7 stars, in the first pass, and pretty disappointed. Ebony Maw, I use him in all of the Mystic nodes in the Doom Raid, and that's mostly because of this ability where he gives defense up to his team, which means that they take in 50% less damage, and then offense down to the enemy team, which means 50% less damage output for the enemy. So that really helps in raids in terms of survivability. The ult's useful as well, but the cooldowns are very long. You kind of have to run him with Thanos because this is just 7-turn cooldown. This is a 5-turn cooldown. So you really need Thanos feeding him energy, and Thanos is kind of long in the tooth, so to speak. He's character. In other words, he's old and power crept. So, I don't think Ebony Maw and Thanos are going to last long. Once we get more Mystic characters, I think they're going to drop off the team. But for now, I do use them in Doom Raid. In Alliance War, Black Order is a good team. We run them often on defense now. Sometimes we run them on offense. It depends. But they're not that important. Black Order is a team that you don't really rely on all that much. But they're, it's good, but this is not the character that he was when I first unlocked him, when he was like a top 5 overall character in the game. Now he's good, but not a vital must-have. Like, you don't must-have Black Order anymore. You don't must-have Ebony Maw. You could get through Mystic without him, and you don't really need a Black Order, other than I know there's some Doom campaign nodes where Black Order is really important. Black Bolt, he's actually aged pretty well. At the time that he came out, he was like ridiculous. Like, this character, when I first unlocked him, just at 5 stars, I was like, oh my God. This was the first time I had a character where I was like, oh my God, this character's ridiculous. Like, that burp where he pings was unbelievable. Attack the enemy for 200% damage when they drop below 25% health. It was so insane that, like, when I didn't have him on my team, I'd be waiting for the burp to come. His damage was astronomical at the time, but as you see now, it's just not the same way. This damage is good, but he's nowhere near the highest damage in the game anymore. When it used to be, there was a gap between him and the number 2 character in the game. So, his damage is not what it once was. I haven't brought him to gear tier 15. I never felt like I had to. I don't use him in Doom Raid at all. I use the symbiotes, even though they're power crept, and the team that gives me that performs the worst for me in the Doom Raids, I find that the team does worse with Black Bolt and Yo-Yo on it. But he's useful. I use him in Alliance War, often against Heroes for Hire, sometimes elsewhere, sometimes on defense. But he's still a useful character because his attacks prevent revives, which is useful against Heroes for Hire and in some other situations. So still a useful character, but kind of like a character it's nice to have in your toolbox, right? But not one of the most important characters in the game. I feel the same way with, let's say, Ebony Maw. These are useful characters, still useful to have. Like, they're any player as you get towards the end game should have these characters, but they're not like, oh my God, you must have them, top of the meta, anything like that. Same with Doc Ock, I'd say, but he's definitely a tier above Ebony Maw and Black Bolt at this point. Nick Fury, I do use him right now with Kestrel and the Secret Avengers, but to be very blunt, they don't really need him. He's very good with that team because Kestrel gives him a bunch of extra health that's actually on her kit, not on his. I think she gives him a lot of health, which really helps. She also ensures that his summons get death proof and defense up, which helps them survive quite a bit. And then they ping. They'll use their basic attacks. His summons will use their basic attacks and create, or whatever, and create pings that will generate pings from Kestrel with her when they're attacking defense down characters. So he's a good character, but you don't need him. I mean, if you have the Secret Avengers plus Kestrel, you can really put any character in the 5th slot that won't die right away, and they'll be fine. Other than that, in Alliance War, he's often on my bench. Sometimes I use him with Kestrel and what I will call the Kestrel Speed team. Team that I showcased in the Art of War video a long time ago. Still on my Alliance War offense tier list. That's with Kestrel, Fury, Ultron, Namor, and Falcon. But that, it's useful against certain Doom teams in particular, and kind of a variety of teams. But, I often, he just sits in at the bench, and Kestrel works on Heroes for Hire for me. He's useful with her, and really at this point only with her. I think Shield as a overall team is pretty weak right now, despite Maria Hill having the Shield tag. Jubilee is very good. Jubilee, I suppose, may actually be a tier above Doc Ock in the sense that she's more certain to be useful in the future. I have Beast on my top 10 to invest in list, and I kind of have it with Jubilee. I think Beast is a way more important character to be investing in, but I think Jubilee's good. And most importantly, she is required to make the X-Men go. So if you don't have Jubilee, don't bother building up X-Men, because they basically need this speed bar gain. They need the assist nows. They need the 30% max health. They need all that stuff in order to kind of go. The ability energy for Beast and speed bar for Beast. So they need Jubilee. But as long as you've got her, she's great on that team. So I think X-Men are the mutant raid team for the Doom raid, at least at difficulty 1. In the base difficulty and difficulty 0, or whatever you want to call it, you don't really need the full X-Men team. I think Jubilee, Beast, and Bishop are really nice to have. But you could put them with let's say the Dad Bros, a Longshot and Shatterstar, or a couple others, and you're fine. And you could just get by with X Factor if you're just focusing on getting Adam Warlock unlocked or whatever. But once you get to difficulty 1, you pretty much need the X-Men. So she's good from that perspective. In War, X-Men's just okay on War offense. They're not nothing. I mean, they're a War offense team. They're good, but they're nothing special. They're kind of like a, standard War offense team. I would say they're not one of the very best, but they're not awful or bad or power crept. They're best against teams that have summons, because they get turn meter when Jubilee gives the team turn meter when they kill an enemy. But she's just a useful character. Is she one of the best characters in the game? No. I never brought her to gear tier 15, because as long as she hits her debuffs and she doesn't die, she's fine. I mean, her damage is nothing special, and whatever. But she's a useful character. Shuri, I still use her in the tech nodes in the Doom raid, but she's totally not required. Some folks in my alliance prefer Minerva. You probably could get away without having a healer at all, because you got Doc Ock, and Kestrel heals herself, and Doom is very hard to kill. I like having Shuri. I like the defense up, which reduces incoming damage by 50%. I really like how she puts deflect on allies when they drop below 50%. I like that it's automatic. But she's starting to show her age. I mean, look at how low her health is, 254k health. Now, just to be clear, this is with level 2 blue ISO, gear tier 14, level 80, 6 red stars, 254 health. You said that these new characters have 700k plus health. So it's just the reality is, she is, can be easily killed, and just, doesn't heal for as much. Her heals are not as impactful. Even with the T4, you're talking about 15% of her max health 5 times. It's just not what it once was. She does get the extra here, max health. And the reason you do the T4 here is you get the extra max health and raids, 40% max health, but even 140% of this is just not a ton of health anymore. Invisible Woman, super unimportant. I brought her to DD4 as part of the race because I was one of the very first people finishing DD4. So I finished in 4th, but I wanted to finish higher, and I didn't want to finish, I wanted to finish as high as I could. So I brought her, but she's really not important. I wouldn't bring her to Gear Tier 15 today, and she's not important really in war or in the meta at all. I just think I think Fantastic Four is just not an important team anymore. And, can they be useful? Sure. But they're just not important. They're okay backup team, at least at my level. Magneto, more important, ironically, than Invisible Woman, just because Brotherhood still does some things very well, but also a team that, I basically just use him on war defense. He's a war defense character for me. I'll use him, or war offense. I mean, I use, sometimes I run Brotherhood Doom, where I remove Pyro and put Doom. Sometimes I run Uncanny Doom, where I remove kind of the extra Uncanny member and throw Doom on there. But, Magneto's very, still got this sort of trick that he has, which is he gets a lot of speed bar on spawn if he's got a Brotherhood team, and then he ults everyone, which puts blind, lumps them together and puts blind on them. That's basically what he does. He's very good at that. He's got some other stuff he does, his special's good, but that's basically what he does. He's a good character, but not a super important one anymore. Phoenix, she's, to me, she's useful on Uncanny team. Like if you use Uncanny Doom. I run Uncanny, usually on war defense, whether I have Doom in them or not. And she's useful character just because her special removes debuffs. And then, the summon Dark Phoenix is very powerful. Still not what it once was, but, still pretty powerful, useful character. I think she's most useful for Dark Dimension. So I suspect in Dark Dimension 5, people will still use Phoenix. And the reason you want to use Phoenix is because Dark Phoenix is a summon, which means every time Phoenix dies, you get full cooldown. So you don't have to wait, for your cooldown. Like with Ghost, you have to wait, for her ult to come back around. Here, you just get the special every time, and she steals 20% health, which is, a lot of drain. So when the enemies have a lot of health, it's good. But, in terms of the gameplay, not super important anymore. She used to be one of the very best top character in the game or whatever. Not anymore. Nowhere near that. Star-Lord's completely worthless in the game. People are always trying to make Star-Lord happen. Don't try to make Star-Lord happen. He's just super power creep right now. Not important. Iron Man, super unimportant. Power armor sucks, and even when they're used, Iron Man's dropped from the team. I don't even bother ranking him up. Not worth the 500k gold. And that's it. Those are the legendaries in this game. So as you can see, not an amazing list. Not a must-have. Adam Warlock's probably the closest must-have character. Jubilee, just because you want to complete the X-Men, not because she's the most powerful member. I actually think Bishop and Beast are super important to the team. Jubilee just has passives that make the team run, but in terms of what she's doing on the field, not as big of important of a piece, but her blinds are very nice. I do think the blinds that she throws out on her basic are very good and useful for the team, but some of the others are useful. Doc Ock, Ebony Maw, to a lesser extent, it's like Black Bolt, Shuri, I guess, but we're kind of it's kind of it. So, that's the use that I get from Legendaries. This was a video I made by popular request. And if you have comments and thoughts for future videos, leave them below in the comments or go to our Discord. That's linked below. Lots of great discussions there. Or check out my Twitch stream. That's actually where this comment came from my Twitch stream. That's linked below. I try to stream on weeknights when I can.